Hello folks, welcome to Lexi IAS. In today's video, we'll be discussing a current affair topic presented to you by faculty Sushma KP. So what is the topic that we are going to be looking into today? It is about your Myanmar Civil War and its geopolitical implications on China and India. In this article, we'll be looking into as to why is it news, what is the relevance of it into your UPSC, that is your GS paper 2. We'll be looking into Myanmar Civil War, we'll be discussing about the Three Brotherhood Alliance as well as seeing the implications on China and India. Let's get the video started. If you look at Myanmar, in the north and northeast, it is bordered by China. In the eastern portion, it is by your Laos, Thailand, Cambodia. In the southern portion, by your Bay of Bengal and Andaman Sea. When I say the word Myanmar, it has a rich cultural heritage. What do I mean by rich cultural heritage? Look at this. A land which was very well known for its cultural beauty is now how did a land that was witnessing this now witnessing this? This is what we'll be looking through in this video. Where did it all change? It all changed when the military overthrew the democratically elected government headed by Aung San Suu Kyi was overthrown. When the military overthrew the democratically elected government headed by Aung San Suu Kyi. Why? That is the question. On February 1st, 2001, your Myanmar military overthrew National League for Democracy. Question again, why? Because it had in the recent election a landslide victory. Your National League for Democracy headed by Aung San Suu Kyi won landslide victory. Wait, for that your military overthrew it? No, because the way they won that election was through malpractices. So initially when the overthrowing was happening, all the people, etc., student protests, they all supported. But eventually what happened, your Myanmar military didn't stop at that. The coup didn't stop at that. They started huge human right violations. So much so that now an alternate section got created, like the formation of People's Defense Forces, which was fighting against the military. Because why? They're performing too much human right violations, gassing the people, hitting the people, lathi charging the people, and so much so that now, for example, if this is an urban area, your military will have all this under control because your urban is not able to resist them. Yeah, in the rural areas and your buffer zones play, that's a different story. Whereas all your urban areas are under your control of your military. Why? As and when the military kept pushing, the people couldn't offer resistance. So alternate forces started coming up. Now this is Myanmar military, this is alternate forces which are fighting against the military. This has initially what was a coup is now turned into a full-fledged civil war. These People's Defense Forces also started taking support from your ethnic armed organizations. When I say ethnic armed organizations, these organizations are there since the independence of Myanmar, that is since your 1948 itself they are there. But they have been fighting with the center for different issues such as autonomy for the ethnic regions, autonomy for the local regions. So they were fighting for that. Now they are suddenly shifting. No, they are coming together with the People Defense Forces. Your ethnic armed organization have different agenda. That is post winning. That is post someone else comes into power apart from your military. So both of them have joined hands. They are staying united, even though what they want out of the government is separate. But they are fighting together, putting up a front against your military. Like I mentioned, So it has become a multi-front civil war, which means lot of smaller factions are coming together, united and fighting against your Myanmar military. What are those? Your People's Defense Forces, your ethnic armed organizations such as your Kachin Independence Army, Karen National Union, Arakan Army. So all of these people, different agendas, different ways of fighting, but still coming together and fight against your Myanmar military. Why? Because Myanmar military has superior weapons, it has better technology, it has better funding, and these people independently cannot match that. Whereas unitedly, they are having a chance. Apparently, they claim. So each group, as we mentioned, they have different motive. And if you look at this, the junta and the armed groups, that is your Myanmar military and the armed groups, have all taken different zones of your Myanmar. Your urban areas are pretty much strongly under the control of your Myanmar army, whereas your rural areas and your buffer areas are under the control of your rebels. How is the world reacting to the Myanmar issue? Call it coup or call it your civil war, either way it's a disturbance, both within Myanmar as well as external. The way China is dealing about this issue is of strategic ambiguity. I'll tell you why. Your ASEAN is more of divided on this. Few ASEAN countries such as your Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, all these member countries, they're having two approaches. One is either they're telling impose restrictions on them. The others are claiming, let's go for peace talks. Whereas if you look at countries like your USA, Australia, Canada, EU, France, etc., these people are going with stringent actions. Sanctions, sanctions, sanctions. Completely it is immersed in sanctions. When Myanmar is getting immersed in sanctions, India is the one player, again, India also will be discussing. India is one player who is standing in a helpless position. It can't engage in completely restrictions also, or it can't engage in peace talks also. Even from the beginning of civil war, that is from 2021 onwards, it is still trying to balance out. I'll tell you why. Your USA, UK, France, China, and your Australia, everyone are just slapping with double sanctions on Myanmar. This is leading Myanmar to go towards China. It is like a tight embrace. Myanmar, each time these people are coming with double China, Myanmar is running towards China. It's getting a tight embrace that it wants, so it is going towards China. That is not something that is wanting for India. That is not a very good thing from India perspective. And second thing, if we just leave this Myanmar issue, that also we can't live because of our shared border. That is, our northeast is getting impacted because of the Myanmar civil war. So we are balancing very delicately on this twin challenge. Now, when I mentioned China is having a strategic ambiguity, why? Apparently, I'm using this apparently, China claims that it will not interfere in the internal matters of any country. And China is telling that. So let's take according to China's role itself. China claims that it will not interfere in internal matters of any country, but with respect to Myanmar, if you see, it is actively engaged. It is very actively engaged. I mean, not militarily, but in all other forms. Why and how is what we will be seeing. If you look at Myanmar and China, China and Myanmar are part of your Belt Road Initiative. And also, one of the main reason why China wants Myanmar is this China can have access to your Indian Ocean while avoiding the Strait of Malacca, which has become a bottleneck during your geopolitical tensions. So, it can avoid Strait of Malacca to have access to Indian Ocean, while if it has access to Myanmar, see, direct entry. This Strait of Malacca, because of the geopolitical tensions, has becoming very difficult for China to get access to. So if it has Myanmar, it will have direct access. Another thing is the shared boundary. If you see, it is more than 2,100 kilometers of shared boundary they have, which means any issues here might implicate China also. Thing is, China and Myanmar, they have bondings which will affect the strategic, that is your security positioning, economic ties, and also one main reason is your China doesn't want to lose its control on Myanmar. From the security perspective, while this Myanmar has entered into civil war, it has witnessed huge amount of cyber scam operations, drug trafficking, and human trafficking. If it is happening in Myanmar, what is hurting China? Because it is happening in border areas, which means the spillover effect is seen. The spillover effects are seen even in China, which China doesn't want. China wants to remove these things. And also, it has heavily invested in Myanmar. It doesn't want Myanmar to be undergoing unstable conditions. Another thing is your Operation 1027, which is ongoing by a Three Brotherhood Alliance. Just about this, briefly, we'll discuss further down. When we speak about diplomacy, China hasn't actively engaged in military perspective, but in all other forms, China has engaged. For example, we mentioned diplomacy, right? Your China has strictly warned the Three Brother Alliance to keep its actions to a minimal in the border areas, that is, border areas of Myanmar and China. And one more thing with respect to your China is it is trying to actively engage with your Myanmar military as well as the opposing resistance forces. It is trying to, at least China claims it is trying to play a level playing field and bring advantage in the area. But it is more of like China's advantage in whichever area. For example, I told you urban areas is Myanmar military, rural and buffer areas it is your resistance forces. So your China is trying to engage with both to suit its strategic advancements. When you speak about military, like we mentioned, it isn't actively engaged. That is, China hasn't sent its military troops into Myanmar, but it has paid for contractual things, etc. That's a different story. Economically, now this is where, which is of strategic importance, China has heavily invested. When I said heavily invested, China Myanmar Economic Corridor, which is a part of Belt Road Initiative. Now it has to protect its investment. Only if that region is safe, then only they can go in. Look at this. We spoke about the Strait of Malacca, right? This region is a Strait of Malacca. If it gains access to Myanmar, it can directly get access to Indian Ocean. This is also one of the reasons. Now, it is not just your Belt and Road Initiative where China has invested in Myanmar, but also in your deep sea ports and oil and gas pipelines from Rakhine State to Yunnan province. Just this alone costs huge amount of money. 7 billion of future prospects are seen in this particular project. Now, we mentioned Three Brotherhood Alliance, right? This Three Brotherhood Alliance is the grouping of Arakan Army, Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army, Thang National Liberation Army. The areas where they are most active is your Rakhine State, Bangladesh Myanmar border, China Myanmar border. Now, did you understand when I mentioned China has strictly warned the Three Brotherhood Alliance or Brotherhood Alliance about conducting operations such as your drug trafficking, human trafficking on the border areas, cyber crime, cyber trafficking, all these things. China has claimed it to curb on the border areas, not curb it at all, curb on the border areas because it's having a spillover effect on China. So they are being conducting this Operation 1027 against your Myanmar military. Apart from just the investments, China is also very much interested in the natural resources which is present in Myanmar. One thing is its potential jade. So it has huge deposits of jade in its mines. Now this mines is important because in 2023 it did have a disaster. So just so for prelims perspective from the places of importance, you just keep this in mind. This mines is in Myanmar. Apart from this jade, it is also interested in your rare earth elements, timber, natural gas, tin, copper. So these are all areas of interests. Areas of interest for your China. If this region becomes stable, then your China can use this to its advantage. Now it's not able to do. Why? Because each region, each area has different authority in that place, which makes it difficult for China to enter in. Look at this. China, Myanmar. Now, if it is going to be an unstable Myanmar like how it is, what will it impact? The trade volume was about $10 billion in 2019. Consistently, it's been decreasing because of the instability. And also, the refugee inflows might happen to China, which will be difficult for China as it claims it doesn't want refugee inflows. And this drug trafficking, illegal gambling, then all of this are set up in the border areas which your China wants to completely eliminate in that zone. By trying to do this, it is also sending a message to the Myanmar military because it is not doing anything about this. And one more issue is it doesn't want Myanmar to be associated or any powers of Myanmar, if they rise to power, it doesn't want itself being aligned with any of the Western powers, which is why China is aligning with all the powers there, both the resurgent powers as well as the Myanmar military. Next, we've seen what is it Myanmar's implications on China. Now we'll see what are India's implications. That is, what is the impact on India of the Myanmar Civil War or the coup. First and foremost, it is not just your China guy who is invested in Myanmar. India is also invested much more, not just monetary wise, but on different terms. What is it? Your Myanmar is an integral part of India's Act East Asia policy. We have also entered into Kaladan multimodal project, which will link our countries northeast with the rest of Southeast Asia. We have also signed an agreement for IMT, that is India, Myanmar, Thailand trilateral highway. All of this is getting impacted. Another main thing, this we discussed. Myanmar, because all the countries are slapping sanctions against it, it is going towards China. If it goes towards China, then China will do whatever it wants. That also I'll be discussing what it is doing on whatever it wants. Then the Myanmar's refugee crisis, refugee inflow is also coming into our northeast. For example, your Manipur alone has had 40,000 refugees. Northeast on its own is now on a very delicate balance. We all know how the issue of Northeast is. Now we are trying to restore order and peace, and in that Myanmar refugee influx will again aggravate the scenarios. Now, when I said China can do whatever it wants, apparently when it has control on Myanmar, this is the listening post or basically spying. Your China has set up your listening post, or basically in simpler brute form terms, it is spying on India and Indian Ocean, Indian naval vessels from your Myanmar's Great Coco Island. When India pointed this out, Myanmar rubbished it by telling it's all rumors. China is just claiming as it is. I have no idea what that is. But they have, this is not new for China. It has created artificial islands on South China Sea just for spying purpose. Now the same thing it is trying to do on India by getting close to Myanmar. And look at this, your Chinese spy ships, Yon Wang 6 has been seen in your very close to your Indian Ocean. Like we mentioned, we are recently trying to create some sort of peace or peace accords with our Northeast with the form of Bodo Accord, Raring Agreement, Kabri Anglong agreements. And just when we are trying to settle, yes, now we are on a settled basis. Now, this Myanmar issue is further escalating the issue, wherein the refugee influx of your Chin and Kuki into India or Northeast is bringing issues with the India's Métis and Nagas. One main issue that India is suffering in the hands of this coup or civil war that they call it is your Myanmar is using India as a feeder line, that is a transport area for drug trafficking. This is harmful on all aspects. So this is it about your Myanmar civil war and implications of India and China. Hope you like our content. If you like our content, subscribe to our channel, hit the like button and share it along with your friends. Thank you.